Welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast, where today's thought leaders discuss how they're using the latest social media strategies and technologies in marketing, sales, customer service, and HR. Get ready to be inspired as our guests contribute to your digital transformation through their stories, knowledge, and insights into what works in today's digitally connected world. And now, here's Bernie Borges, your host of the Social Business Engine podcast.
Hey there, welcome to episode 180. I'm Bernie Borges, CMO of Vengreso and your host of the Social Business Engine podcast. Hey, thanks for listening. On this episode, I am excited to bring you my conversation with Miki Goyal, Chief Technology Officer at TimeTrade. Now, Miki leads TimeTrade's software engineering organization, where his focus is leading the company's product roadmap for TimeTrade's market-leading cloud appointment scheduling platform that's used by banks, retailers, service organizations, and tech companies to make connecting with customers easier and more efficient. So, what exactly does that mean? Well, on this episode, you are going to learn about TimeTrade's recent announcements about how they're integrating artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities with Salesforce Einstein to automate appointment setting with qualified sales prospects. Now, if this sounds too good to be true, then don't go anywhere because Miki explains exactly how it's done with TimeTrade. And I have to tell you that I am super impressed with how TimeTrade can impact sales reps' productivity because, let's face it, it is harder than ever before to get an appointment with a buyer, especially a qualified buyer. Now, Miki also shares on this episode other AI-powered capabilities that are going to give you reason to think about how you can be more productive in scheduling appointments with prospects and customers. And if it's not you, then it should be your sales team that you're thinking about. Now, this episode is sponsored by Lithium Technologies. In case you missed it, this is episode 180, but on episodes 175 through 179, those episodes were co-hosted by Dale Hall, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Lithium Technologies. We produced a podcast series that's titled The 5 Most Influential Topics in B2b Marketing. Now, again, in case you missed it, we are making all 5 episodes available in one recording. So again, it's episodes 175 through 179, available in one continuous recording file. Now, we're also including a written summary of these 5 podcast episodes in Social Business Journal Volume 10, and it includes bonus content that is not in the podcast version. So, to download this podcast series, again, episodes 175 through 179, did I mention that already? in one recording, and to get the journal, just go to socialbusinessengine.com, click on the Up Close podcast button that's brought to you by Lithium Technologies, and don't worry, this will be linked up in the show notes, which we email out every Wednesday morning. So if you're not subscribed to get that email, then head over to socialbusinessengine.com and get subscribed. All right, now let's get to my conversation with Miki Goyal, Chief Technology Officer at TimeTrade. Miki, welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast.
Thanks, Bernie, for having me.
Absolutely. Miki, let's begin with, for my listener, a brief introduction to your company, TimeTrade. Tell us about TimeTrade.
Sure. So TimeTrade is in the customer engagement business. What we like to do is connect our customers to their customers. There are over 500 major brands around the world that are currently using our capability, ranging from banks and retailers to sales organizations and healthcare systems. Give you an example of our use case. Customer wants to, you're a sales rep and you want to reach out to your prospects or your leads. Through our Salesforce platform, click a simple button and avoid all of the calling and chasing and waiting that most customers typically, or most organizations typically expose to their customers. Overall, what we do is we reduce the amount of time it takes to schedule meaningful appointments with your customers.
Fantastic. I can relate to that. All right. So let's talk about a recent announcement that the TimeTrade made about your integration of Salesforce Einstein. I'm always interested in covering the advancement of AI into marketing technology and just tools and technologies that we use both in marketing and sales. So if you want to begin with just a brief introduction, how are you integrating Salesforce Einstein into TimeTrade?
Sure. So a quick recap of Salesforce Einstein's capability. Einstein provides the ability to leverage information about a lead using all of the properties or attributes of a lead and generate a lead score from it. That lead score is then used to determine probable actions that you can take on that prospect or that lead. So what TimeTrade has done is leveraged the process builder capability and enable a lead score to automatically present scheduling capabilities directly to leads. So, for example, let's say you have a high-value lead, and this is someone you want to immediately schedule an appointment with. Without our capability, that's a manual effort. Now we've completely automated that, and as soon as that lead score hits a certain threshold, for example, that an invitation is immediately sent out to your lead, who can schedule an appointment to work with you. It eliminates all of the calling and chasing and waiting that I referred to earlier. All of this can be built on top of custom business rules, and then the output of which can be fed back into Einstein's capabilities to further enhance the quality of the lead score.
So the business rules are they manually determined, and then Einstein, because it's built on artificial intelligence, is going to learn the more those rules are applied? Is that the way it works?
So, sort of. Perhaps think about it this way. What TimeTrade does is help build a profile of the lead. We capture information and feed that into Einstein's lead scoring. The artificial intelligence then uses that to create a number, and that number is then used to do the automatic engagement with the customer.
Okay, so the automatic engagement, what could that look like? I want
Sure.
to visualize that for my listener.
Of course. So a very simple example is an email that goes out to your lead. So customer Acme Inc. is a customer you're trying to close. It sends an email to your primary contact, and in that email is a link that says, content that says, "Hi, my name is Miki. We know we're trying to close this particular account. Please schedule an appointment with me." It provides all of my availability. So all the lead at Acme Inc. has to do is say, "Oh, 4 p.m. on Tuesday. That works for me," and automatically schedules an appointment on their calendar and my calendar.
Okay. And is any of that personalized? So like you said, hi, my name is Miki. Would it say, if you were contacting me, would it say, "Hi, Bernie, my name is Miki"?
Absolutely. You can completely personalize the entire contents of that exchange. The example I gave you was an email, but you can make that change. You can change that to a voicemail or a chat. The integrations are completely omni-channel from an outbound perspective.
Okay. All right, so I want to ask sort of a rhetorical question, Miki, but I want to ask it anyway because I think it'll be a good conversation, and I'm always thinking about my listener, right, in terms of them getting the most value to this conversation. But why did you do this? Like, what is the value to your customer in providing this capability?
So, ultimately, from my perspective, our customers are working under tremendous market constraints. Right? We're all forced to do more with what we have. And whether it's budgetary constraints or lack of skills, what our platform enables them to do is to focus on the things that they're good at and allow automation to ensure things don't slip through the cracks. I'm confident that if you go into any any organization and look at their Salesforce contacts and leads, and things slip. Right? You have complete intention to follow up with a lead, and it slips through. You wait a week, and suddenly you lost that business. This ensures that the real-time, instant interaction helps close business at the time the lead is hot, as opposed to waiting for potential competitive risk.
Yep. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Now, is this something that was inspired prior to the Einstein technology became available? I guess I'm asking the question, which came first, right? The chicken or the egg? In this case, the chicken is Einstein. So was it inspired prior to the technology being available, or was it when the technology became available, you guys said, let's use it to do this?
Of course. A little bit of both. The reality is we've been following the AI curve, and me particularly for over the last 2 years, trying to figure out the right opportunity for TimeTrade to make an entrance into that space. And when Salesforce announced that capability, we so happened to have first released our first version of that product earlier this year, and it was basically the sun and the moon and the earth aligning, and we decided to ride that wave, if you will.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, Miki, let's get to some use cases. I think we've already touched on a few of them, but I want to drill down a little bit more. And so the use cases that we agreed that we would devote some time to, because I know that there's many. Let's start with B2b sales, with a focus maybe on technology, but not limited to technology, but B2b sales. Sure.
So as I mentioned, I like to think about AI from a TimeTrade perspective as slightly broader than just Einstein. Though Einstein is a critical aspect of it from our first versions. But let me give you the use case a little bit further. We talked about lead scoring and using lead scoring to potentially create automatic engagements driven on customized or personalized business rules. But there's other opportunities. So from a service or a renewal perspective, imagine if you can keep track of various types of engagements, support tickets, likelihood to adopt new capabilities on your platform. Use all of that information to feed back into machine learning capabilities and use that to identify churn. Well, TimeTrade has a lot of that information. So, for example, appointment volume, right? Are your customers apt to continue to make appointments on your platform or not? If not, how do you use that information to then identify that they're potentially going to churn, and then use that as an opportunity to create proactive marketing campaigns? So that's sort of the second use case. And then the third within B2B on the service and sales side of things is a new capability that we've been touting, leveraging an old capability, if you will. Everyone's familiar with voicemail. Nobody really uses voicemail anymore. All the stats show that less than a third of people ever even check their voicemail.
Yeah,
and
I'm one of those.
You and me both. And so why are we interested in tying AI back into voicemail, and how does that even tie back into the services business, sales and service business? Well, think about it this way. You get a phone call. None of us answer our phones during the day. Well, what happens, imagine if you have the ability to immediately prompt a small select list of people who are about to call you with a very simple prompt that says, sorry, Mickey's not available right now, but I know you're a valued customer. What time would you like to meet with Mickey? And you can respond back with, I'd love to meet with Mickey on Friday at 2 p.m. Is he available? He's not available at Friday at 2 p.m. How about 2:30? Sure, that works. And immediately schedules get sent out. All of that done without me even answering the phone, and done at the time the customer was most interested in reaching out to me.
So let me give that back to you. I want to make sure I got it. So I have an incoming call. I don't take it, right?
It gets sent to my voicemail.
Okay. And then there's a voicemail, an auto response, if you will, that is engaging with you live. Is that right? Or is
That's
it a voicemail?
Correct. It's engaging with you live.
So essentially it's answering the call.
That's right. It's answering the call for you and using natural language processing to understand and interpret your intent, and then present back opportunities for us to meet in the future.
Got it. The natural language processing, that's what clicked for me, and I think for the listener. So basically you've got, let's call it a robot, answering the call.
That's right.
And then having a little conversation saying, Bernie's not available right now. How about Friday, 2 o'clock? Doesn't work. 2:30. Yep, great. And then it gets booked. The calendar then happens.
That's exactly right. It instantly gets booked on my calendar, and you get an invite sent to you. And now we have a time where we're both guaranteed to be available for each other, including all of the wonderful capabilities like teleconferencing and phone numbers and all of that added directly into the system. All of this tied back into your CRM, and that's how you might manage who gets this voice prompt versus who gets the bit bucket of your voicemail.
Right. Okay. Love that. Fantastic. Ooh, I didn't know that. That's really a cool feature. I like that a lot. All right. Just to keep moving, Miki, we also agreed that we would touch on B2B to C, both on the service side and on the retail side. And if you would, first explain what you mean by B2B to C.
Sure. So a lot of our customers have their customers. So, a canonical example that we like to talk about from a retail perspective is Best Buy. And so Best Buy's Geek Squad is powered by TimeTrade. And so that B2B to C experience is extremely important for our customers. And so through that platform, they can expose calendars or in essence, solve problems for a particular person directly online. I want to get a car radio installed. Well, which Best Buy do I go to? Who's going to be available? What's the right technician that knows how to manage my Volvo versus your Porsche? There's all of that needs to be figured out. That's where the business rules come in, and then eventually an appointment is made available where the person can self-select into a slot.
And is this done through engagement between a customer and a website or an app or phone or any of the above?
That's exactly right, Bernie. It is really omni-channel. And so we have the ability to present through typical websites. You can do it through phone, you can text, you can use IVR, chatbots. There's a numerous number of ways you can potentially integrate with our platform.
All right. Fantastic. So that was B2B to C on the retail side in that example, the Geek Squad example.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about on the service side?
So on the service side, typically our customers have a lot of support requests that they have to service on their end. And, for example, onboarding is a typical use case that we talk about. How do professional service organizations onboard a new prospect onto their platform? And so a lot of that will be done through our B2B2C aspect on services. And so let's say you buy a new capability and you buy a phone and you need to be trained on how to use that phone. You may want to schedule an appointment with a sales rep or a service rep, specifically in the service side, to be able to repair your phone or train you on your phone, things of that nature. So very similar use case as retail, but more targeted towards a cost center as opposed to necessarily a revenue center.
Okay, cool. Now, let's also talk about banking, but first I'm going to tell you a very quick story. I recently had a need to physically go into a bank location, and it occurred to me that I hadn't done that in years. and I know I'm not alone. And it was a Saturday. So, but I first, I bank with one of the big banks, but I first had to find the branch location that was open in my area on Saturday, because not all were open on Saturday. So I tell you that story because perhaps, maybe you impact that, maybe not. I don't know. I'm taking a gamble here. But fill us in on how you're using Einstein in banking.
Sure. So from an Einstein perspective, again, a lot of it comes back to things like natural language, some of the natural language processing that not just Einstein, but perhaps more some of the players like IBM, Watson, Amazon Lex provide to be able to do things like, let's say you go to a website and say, you get a chatbot that's an off-hours chatbot. And you say, I want to find an open bank near me to service me in this area. It automatically interprets that, presents back to you options of the banks that are available, and then use that information to schedule an appointment.
Okay. And so again, I would do that through a website, an app, text.
That's exactly right. All of the channels that most people are used to. We're actually even playing with an Alexa-based integration.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So something simple like schedule me an appointment to see my hairstylist in Burlington, Massachusetts at 5 p.m. And it would schedule you an appointment.
Okay, cool. So where I'd like to go perhaps last before I get to my recap and summary, Miki, is speak to me a little bit about your crystal ball in terms of where you see, sort of things headed in the way that we're engaging with prospects and customers using things like natural language processing and the ability to do lead scoring and improve our ability to close more deals. Where do you see things going as we're applying this technology more and more into the tools that businesses are using on a daily basis?
Sure. So from my point of view, there's this spectrum that's being built from an AI perspective, and it starts with reaction, right? Which is, I have a particular situation and I react to it. And AI, AI certainly, there's heuristics that were sort of the predecessors of some of the AI algorithms that are used, and then moving into the prediction. Don't just tell me what to do, tell me the circumstances, but tell me when those circumstances will arise so I can prevent them, right? Still, a human gets involved in that engagement. Moving to the point where AI is actually engaging with the customer, typically in some fashion where a human is mildly involved, right? Delivering next best actions, for example. To the final stage where the AI platforms fully own that relationship and can completely solve a customer's problems, right? So something simple like, or not simple, complicated yet simple from a user perspective, like Alexa. I would like to purchase a new soccer ball for my daughter, size 4, and it automatically completely fulfills my request without ever bringing a human in the loop. Mm-hmm. So that transition from being able to basically react to predict, to engage and own is that sort of direction where AI, from my perspective, is moving, and more sophisticated capabilities on the engagement and owning side with all the wonderful things you read about deep learning is where a lot of the research is being done now.
Okay, so if I may, Miki, ask a follow-up question because you've got me thinking on this now. So
of course.
We're having this conversation, or at least we're publishing in early fourth quarter 2017. How far out do you see that last one that you mentioned where AI fully owns that transaction, if you will?
To be honest, there's aspects of it that are already happening today.
Okay.
So if anything, it's going to become significantly more ubiquitous over the course of the next year. AI, it's interesting. I always talk about AI from sort of a market trend perspective. Mobile changed the way people engaged. And there was this interesting blip of data and analytics and big data in the middle, which to me was a blip. AI is really transformational. And it will completely change the way people operate. And a lot of the things that were done on the data and analytics side are enabling algorithms that have been around for generations to actually solve problems. Why is this all relevant from a time frame perspective? In the last year, we've made tremendous strides, and I'm starting to push the idea that soon enough, at least at the lower end of the AI spectrum, AI is going to become a commodity. And a lot of people listening might look at that and say, wow, you're crazy. But the reality is, let me give you an anecdote. I had an intern this summer who was 15 years old, right? 15 years old, still in high school. He was able to leverage all of the artificial intelligence capabilities on Watson, Amazon Alexa, Amazon and others in a very short period of time. And the commoditization of AI means you don't need a 100-person data science team to solve some of the most basic problems that weren't even solvable 5 years ago. So the rate of acceleration continues in this space.
Yeah, I will add to that, even though a lot of people, when they hear stories like that, Miki, a lot of people fear for their jobs. But I will also argue that there's a lot of new jobs that are going to be created. And of course, we've got lots of history to look back on, right? The automobile put the horse and buggy out of business, but created a whole industry. Computers didn't automate everything. It created a whole industry and, made us all knowledge workers. Likewise, AI is going to create jobs we don't even know exist today. It is certainly displacing people in certain jobs. There's no question about that. But it's also going to create new jobs.
100% agree with you. Humans are a resilient bunch.
Well said. Well said. All right, now we get to the tough part of this podcast, and it's tough on me because I attempt to recap kind of the high points of what we discussed, and I do that in case my listener hasn't figured this out by now. I take notes while we're talking, and so the purpose of this is just kind of recap it all, but also to give you the opportunity to perhaps add anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to add. And so we began our conversation with a brief introduction to TimeTrade, your company, where you are Chief Technology Officer. And you said that you're in the customer engagement business. You allow your customers to connect to their customers very easily through automation and reduce the time that it takes to make that connection. We, of course, started to immediately discuss recent news where you integrated Salesforce Einstein into your TimeTrade offerings. And it's really all about enabling automatic activities, most notably down to the scheduling. So we looked at certain, we talked about the value, like why did you do that? And it's really to allow customers who are under tremendous market constraints, time constraints, to do things more automated, faster, and also ensure that things don't fall through the cracks, like lead follow-up. I think it's a great example. We talked about the inspiration behind this, and you said that it was a little bit of both, forward thinking as well as the availability of the technology, the AI technology. And then we talked about some use cases, starting with B2b sales, lead scoring to create automatic engagement, things like renewals on products, assisting with scheduling appointments on support tickets, even helping customers adopt new capabilities on a platform that can help minimize churn for especially software companies. Also an opportunity to create proactive marketing campaigns by reacting immediately and in real time, and again in an automated way. And then perhaps my favorite example, Miki, is the voicemail example using natural language processing, where it actually answers a call, because we don't answer the phone like you said, and so the system can answer the call and basically book an appointment. And I would imagine that the caller, does the caller even know that they're engaging with a system as opposed to a human?
So today, you certainly can tell that this is the voice constructs from Watson and others are still automated. However, the rate at which it's accelerating, soon enough, you probably won't be able to tell.
Okay. And then you mentioned that also ties into the CRM, so that when the appointment is scheduled, that's all documented into the CRM.
Exactly.
And then we talked about B2B to C, both on the service side. The example there is if you're a professional services company, you can make it easy for the customer to schedule an appointment for some kind of a service. You use the example, if you bought a phone, you need to schedule an appointment to get some training. On the B2B to C, on the retail side, you use the example of the Geek Squad at Best Buy and how that's powered by TimeTrade, and how a customer like myself might tap into their website or text or IVR or a chatbot and schedule an appointment with someone in the Geek Squad. And again, it's all done through TimeTrade. And then we talked a little bit about the banking scenario, how it's beginning to use this natural language processing, similar to the Amazon Alexa scenario, where, like in my example, that I did it the old-fashioned way by going online and seeing who was open on a Saturday. Instead, if the bank is using your system at TimeTrade, I can easily go to any digital channel that they have and engage with it, and it could tell me what branch is open in my area on a Saturday or schedule an appointment. And then we kind of capped it off with your crystal ball in terms of where you see all of this headed, and you said that's really a spectrum of 4 points: reaction, prediction, engagement, and where the AI platform owns everything, and reaction is really just reacting to a certain situation and taking some action on that. The next step is predicting. Tell me when these circumstances arrive, or what's likely for these circumstances to arrive, so I know how I can prevent them from happening when it's a bad thing, or if it's a good thing, perhaps alert me to it in advance so I can create more scenarios like that. And then engagement, where there's some mild human involvement with the AI, kind of feeding it so it learns more. That's my interjection, so please correct me if I'm mistaken. And then the fourth one is where you said that the AI platform fully owns the interaction and the transaction. You use the example of you want to buy a soccer ball size 4 for a child. You can just ask for it and it can make the entire transaction. And then you mentioned, and I agree with you on this, Miki, entirely, that AI is really becoming more ubiquitous, and it will just continue to become more ubiquitous. You used the example of how you had a 15-year-old intern, and I didn't remember if it was a he or she, was able to, basically learn how to use the systems that you exposed them to very, very quickly, and even though that's a very young individual. So that's my summary. Is there anything you'd like to add or elaborate on?
That was the key points, Bernie. Well done.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you. Well, Miki, this has been a fantastic conversation. Anytime I have a guest on here on this topic, I always make the point that I could talk about it for hours, but I won't, both for you and for my listeners, respect for time. But let's wrap it up with, where would you like to send my listener to online to either connect with you or learn more about you and what you've got going on at TimeTrade? Sure.
So you can check out our website at timetrade.com, or you can find me on Twitter at Miki Goyal, MikiGoyal.
All right. Fantastic. Well, my listener knows that both of those will be linked up in the show notes page at socialbusinessengine.com. Miki, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Social Business Engine.
My pleasure, Bernie.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Miki Goyal, Chief Technology Officer at TimeTrade. This has been episode 180, titled Creating More Sales Conversations Through AI-Powered Scheduling. I want to remind you that this episode is sponsored by Lithium Technologies. In case you missed it, episodes 175 through 179 were co-hosted by Dale Hall, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Lithium Technologies. We produced the podcast series that's titled The 5 Most Influential Topics in B2b Marketing. Now, we're making all 5 episodes available in one recording. Again, that's episodes 175 through 179. And one of the memorable takeaways that I remember from this podcast series was learning how 3 B2B brands are effectively doing influencer marketing. Because, a lot of brands are doing influencer marketing not so effectively. So to learn how these 3 B2B brands are killing it with their influencer marketing programs, and a whole lot more B2B marketing must-know strategies, you've got to catch this podcast series. Now remember, we're also including a summary of these 5 podcast episodes in Social Business Journal Volume 10, and it includes bonus content that's not in the podcast version. So to download this podcast series, again, episodes 175 through 179 in one recording, and to get the journal, just go to socialbusinessengine.com, click on the Up Close Podcast button brought to you by Lithium Technologies. And again, don't worry, this is going to be linked up in our show notes. And of course, we mail our show notes out every Wednesday morning. So if you are not subscribed, to get that every Wednesday morning, be sure to head over to socialbusinessengine.com and get subscribed. Well, that is a wrap for episode 180. I want to thank my guest once again, Miki Goyal, Chief Technology Officer at TimeTrade. This is Bernie Borges, CMO of Vengreso, signing off for now and wishing you continued success on your social business journey.
Thank you for listening to the Social Business Engine podcast. Be sure to tune in again next week to reconnect with Bernie Borges for more insights, inspiration, and practical advice on social business. Visit socialbusinessengine.com to catch even more content on social strategy that will rock your business and your career.